There was a ton of uncertainty surrounding the Golden State Warriors this offseason, most notably with forward Jonathan Kuminga, as him and his camp were looking for a potential sign and trade partner this offseason. And although that did not fully come into fruition, the Golden State Warriors front office, especially general manager Mike Dunleavy, needs to be applauded for the job that they've done this last week, putting together one of the deepest rosters in the NBA. But this is now a revitalized and revamped Warriors roster, and this team has the perfect blend of not only veterans and players with championship and postseason experience. They have guys that have the ability to go out there and play small ball, and this looks like an extremely dangerous Warriors team if they are healthy in the postseason. And I do expect that this team is going to be making a lot of noise in the Western Conference this upcoming season. Now, last season was a tale of two halves for the Golden State Warriors. When you look at what they did in totality, they finished with a record of 48-34 as the 7th seed in the Western Conference. They ended up losing in 5 games in the conference semifinals to the Minnesota Timberwolves after Steph Curry had gotten hurt with a hamstring injury and did not return for the remainder of that series. But taking a look at what this Warriors roster did and how they looked before Jimmy Butler arrived and after Jimmy Butler arrived, it is night and day. In those first 51 games before Jimmy Butler had arrived, the Warriors were 25-26. They ranked 18th in offensive rating and they ranked 10th in defensive rating. Once Jimmy Butler arrived, this team absolutely changed and flipped the script, and his impact was undoubtedly noticeable. After Jimmy Butler arrived, this Golden State Warriors team was 8th in offensive rating, number 1 in defensive rating, and they finished out the final 31 games of the season with a record of 23-8. So when you head into this year's offseason, there was a ton of uncertainty with the Golden State Warriors, and like I had mentioned, a ton of that had to do with forward Jonathan Kuminga, who ended up signing a 2-year, $48.5 million contract over the next 2 seasons, with only the first year of it being guaranteed, which is that $22.5 million. But for the Warriors, they got a sizable salary slot, that $22.5 million for the 2025-26 season. That money can now be used to balance a future transaction. The Warriors are now in position, one way or another, to expect a return on their 4-year plus investment in Jonathan Kuminga, who was a former lottery pick in the 2021 draft. This means that the Warriors retain the flexibility to trade Jonathan Kuminga, which means that they can also explore possibilities for a deal within the 3-week window between January 15th, which was when Jonathan Kuminga is going to be trade eligible, and the February 5th trade deadline. If nothing materializes, they can revisit the options next summer, and he has a club option after this year, which the Warriors may or may not pick up if he does not get traded at this year's deadline. Here's what general manager Mike Dunleavy had to say about the Warriors retaining Jonathan Kuminga. He said, "We feel like we have a player that can be really good. I don't feel like there's a need to make a move. Now, we'll see how the season unfolds. This time last year, I would have said we need to get better. I don't feel that way right now. It could change. We have a lot of guys in the team that have value around the league and could be traded, but I think the structure is more so what works for us and the player." And for general manager Mike Dunleavy, I have a ton of respect for him because he not only was able to get this deal done, this is going to help create less chaotic, mess in the locker room. That means that Steve Kerr can now just go out there, put his guys in the best position to be successful night in and night out, and I applaud the Warriors organization from top to bottom for finally getting this deal done. But the Golden State Warriors, they did not stop there, because in a 14-hour window between last Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning, the Warriors ended up not only signing Jonathan Kuminga, they also followed that up with guys like Al Horford, De'Anthony Melton, and Seth Curry, who's now joining his brother Steph Curry in what is going to be one of the best held stories in the NBA this upcoming season. Just want to take a moment to say, if you are appreciating this type of work and coverage from me, the best and easiest way to support me is by liking, commenting, and subscribing down below. It's free and it helps me and the channel out tremendously. My goal is to get this channel up to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the calendar year, and if you guys want more exclusive content from me outside of just here on YouTube, you guys can go ahead and follow me on my socials. The links to all of them will be in the description down below. But thank you guys again, and let's go ahead and get back to today's video. For Al Horford, this is obviously a guy who's an age veteran, had a ton of success with the Boston Celtics over the last handful of years, and Al Horford was extremely excited about joining the Golden State Warriors. He had even said in his press conference, "For me, if there was one place that I was going to leave Boston for, it was this. He was extremely excited, enthusiastic about playing with Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Steve Kerr, and the Warriors organization, who has had so much success. I applaud Al Horford for coming to the Bay Area, and I'm extremely excited to see how he's going to fit at the 5 alongside Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and the others. You look at the Warriors, who also signed De'Anthony Melton again this year after they had signed him last year to a 1-year, $12 million contract in the 2024 offseason. Unfortunately for De'Anthony Melton, he ended up tearing his ACL in November. Less than a month later, in December, he was involved in a 3-team trade, and the Warriors were able to move off of that contract. But De'Anthony Melton, as a two-way guard and as a very good perimeter defender, is now going to be back with the Golden State Warriors. And you look at Seth Curry, the brother of Steph Curry, who led the NBA last season in three-point shooting percentage. He's going to be a sharpshooter and a sniper off the bench, and I think he's going to be the perfect fit for exactly what Steve Kerr wants for that offensive firepower in that second unit. So now when you take a look at the way that this Warriors roster is shaken up, they have undoubtedly one of the best starting 5s in the NBA. The only thing is that their average starting age is going to be 34.2 years of age, which is going to be unbelievable. When you think about the potential and the risk for injuries, you've got to hope and pray that guys can stay upright and healthy. And fun fact, the Warriors are going to be the first team ever to start 4 players over the age of 35 on opening night. That is going to be something to keep our eyes on and monitor this season. So now you're going to take a look at a starting lineup that's going to look like Steph Curry, Moses Moody, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, and Al Horford. And Anthony Slater of The Athletic had even reported that this starting group today was Steph Curry, Pods, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, and Al Horford. Steve Kerr said that they are mixing and matchup lineups early into camp and that nothing is set. My anticipation is that Moses Moody will be the starter come opening night, but I also would not be shocked if Pods was starting, especially with his high IQ. So off the bench, you're gonna have Seth Curry, Jonathan Kuminga, Pods, Quentin Post, Buddy Hield, Trayce Jackson-Davis, and even Gary Payton II. And the thing that I love the most about this is the fact that you've got a ton of veterans and guys with championship and postseason experience. You're gonna have one of the best defensive teams in the game of basketball, and what I believe to be a top 10, but maybe even a top 5 level offense. You're going to have a ton of floor spacing and the ability to play small ball with Al Horford, with Draymond Green, and hell, even Quentin Post did a good job as a point center at times, being able to help set up the offense and other guys, and not necessarily as a primary ball handler, but just his ability in the screen and roll game. I thought Quentin Post showed a lot of promise in the back half of last season. And like I said, you're going to have guys that can space the floor with guys like Buddy Hield, Seth Curry, Pods, and even high-level impact perimeter defenders with Gary Payton and De'Anthony Melton. I love the way that this roster has shapen up over the offseason. And some of the notable questions that you're going to have for this Warriors team is, how are you going to balance these minutes between Steph, Seth, and Pods as guys that are usually guys that function and operate with the ball in their hands? We all know that Pods can spot up. We know that Steph and Seth do a good job of moving without the ball, but especially as 3 undersized guards, how is Steve Kerr going to try to balance those minutes and get the best out of them? How is Steve Kerr going to be able to utilize De'Anthony Melton's defense, and is that going to overlap with Gary Payton, as they have very similar skill sets? Where does Buddy Hield fit into this entire rotation? We know Buddy Hield is an absolute sniper from 3-point range, but if Buddy Hield doesn't have his shot falling, is he going to be unplayable? And finally, can we finally see Moses Moody take that next step and kind of break through in a very crowded backcourt for this Golden State Warriors team? Those are all some questions that I think are going to be actual concerns this upcoming season, and I'm very curious to see how Steve Kerr is going to be able to utilize these guys night in and night out. So now just kind of taking a final prediction and a look at this Warriors team, I don't think that they're going to be a top 3, top 4 seed in the regular season. I think that they're going to try to be smart and try to rest their guys and try to utilize their guys towards the back half of the season, where they're really going to make their bread and butter into the postseason. I do think that they're still going to be a top 6 seed. I don't think that they will be in the play-in tournament, but they're going to be right there in the mix with the Denver Nuggets, with the Clippers, with the Lakers, hell, even with the Minnesota Timberwolves, who I'm extremely high on going into this season. We all know that the Western Conference is a dogfight, and anything less than the conference semifinals, I think, would be a disappointment for this Warriors team this upcoming season. But do not be surprised with playoff Jimmy, Al Horford, Steph Curry, and the rest of these guys. if they actually go out there and win the Western Conference at plus money as an underdog in the Western Conference. I think that that would be a terrific futures bet, and I have my money on Steve Kerr and this organization when it matters the most. But NBA fans and Warriors fans, please let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. What did you guys make about the Warriors offseason moves, especially in the last week? And where do you think that the Warriors are going to end up finishing in the Western Conference this upcoming season? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But thank you guys once again for all of your continuous support. It doesn't go unnoticed. If you guys want more coverage from me like this, make sure you guys go ahead and like, share, and subscribe down below. If you guys want to see more exclusive content from me outside of just here on YouTube, you guys can go ahead and follow me on my socials. The links to all of them will be in the description down below. But thank you guys again, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one.